crossing out of Europe, and they forgot their GPS. Their maps weren't much better. So when they get here, they had to play that slightly uncomfortable game. Excuse me, where's Mount Zion? And if they asked a Byzantine, he would point in that direction. But if they could find a Jew and they asked him, he would have pointed in that direction. So ladies and gentlemen, you have two Mount Zions. Take your pick. But there is only one King David. And King David enters the picture, and he conquers a small city of Jebusites, south of our rock. He built himself a palace, a capital city, to unite the 12 tribes. And now it is time to do something for the Ark of the Covenant, the Aron HaKodesh. Gold box, two angel things on top. What's inside?
Another box.
The Ten Commandments.
Box. You know too much. Inside that box and that box. All right, all three of them. What do we have?
10 Commandments.
Yeah, the 10 Commandments, exactly. This needs a temple, the Beit HaMikdash. And King David wants to build it, so first, he buys the rock. But then along comes the prophet Nathan and says, David, you're a man of war. It is not appropriate for you to build a house of peace and prayer. All right, says David. But I can dream the psalm, and I can write the psalm, and I can teach the Levites how to sing them, and I can dream blueprints. And so, excuse me? That was first temple period history. Why so fast? Simply because on this tour I cannot show you anything from that period. Well, why not? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are standing beside the great Syrian-African rift. Every now and then Jerusalem goes like this. You want your buildings to survive an earthquake? You better anchor them in bedrock. So before you begin to build up, you clear off. And now you have a big pile of building blocks that someone else carved. Go ahead. Use them a second time to build your new buildings. And bye-bye buildings from the First Temple period, and hello buildings from the Second Temple period. So about the oldest I can show you today is going to be from the Second Temple period, halfway through, 2,200 years ago, and that particular thing is underground. That's partly what preserved it. A couple hundred years before that, a smallish temple is built in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. This temple stands for about 350 some years, and it desperately needs repair. Enter Herod. Herod, a king, a builder, and an ego. Is someone with an ego going to rebuild someone else's small little temple? Not a chance. Egos push the limits, north, east, south, and west. The problem is there's a mountain right in the way. Chutzpah! Off with its head. And now you have a lot of limestone. Get busy. Carve it into big building blocks. Push them out of the way, down the hill, using gravity and Herod's ego to build the western retaining wall of possibly the largest artificial platform built in the ancient world. And this is the Tempelmount. So those rocks were carved, they were pushed down the hill into place using gravity. Pretty smart. And that is where we find our western wall of today. The Kotel Hamaravi is right here. This is where people come to pray, and that is about 1/8 of our 488 meter long western retaining wall. Surface area is the area of about 10 American football fields. And now, Herod could build. A building that has been called the most beautiful building ever built. I don't really know because I don't remember ever having seen it. But I can tell you it stood about 60 meters tall, and that is 2 1/2 times the height of the Dome of the Rock. So the next time you're looking up at that shiny gold dome, just Keep looking up, up, up. Wow. Jerusalem began to grow. From the very small city of David, people moved to a hill in the west and far north. People living on this hill were clever, and they built themselves a bridge so they could easily get onto the Tempelmount. That ancient bridge is what is above your head. You are standing, if you will, on the western hill of Jerusalem. And that bridge is what you would use to get on top of the eastern hill of Jerusalem, which is where the temple was, where people came to worship. Tragically, this building stood less than 100 years, and it was totally destroyed. For about 600 years, there was nothing on the Temple Mount, until 691, Abd al-Melech ibn al-Marwani, the Caliph from Damascus, built a splendid building right on top of the rock. And once it was here, of course, the Muslims wanted to be here, but so did the Crusaders. Terrible battles for 88 years. Finally, the Muslims said, we can't defend Jerusalem. Why not? Because between the western hill and the eastern hill was a very steep valley that cut the city in half, the Tyropian Valley. The Muslims began to think out of the box. And they started to fill that valley with arches. Fill the Tyropian Valley with arches. Build your buildings up on top, right beside the western wall. And now, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get to Al-Aqsa, which is the mosque where Muslims pray 5 times a day. So, let me show you in 3 dimensions. Please imagine the arches, and I'm going to build on top of the buildings. There you have it. 800 years ago, they built those arches. 800 years ago, they built the houses on top. This connected the 2 parts of Jerusalem, made it one almost flat piece, much easier to defend, and bye-bye Crusaders. Europe is waiting for you. We're going to be walking north under all that stuff. The time passes. 1967. The paratroopers and the Jerusalem Brigade are gathering at the Western Wall. This is no good. Why not? Because the area in front of the Western Wall in 1967 was the size of this room. In 10 days, there was a big Jewish holiday, Shavuot. Hundreds of thousands of people were going to be coming up because, ladies and gentlemen, please remember, for 19 long years, from 1948 to 1967, not one Jew was allowed to come to the Western Wall. Not one Jew stood here in prayer or prayed. And I think that's why it came to be called the Wailing Wall. It was crying because it was lonesome. At any rate, that was over. Hundreds of thousands of people were going to be coming up. In an area this size, that's not safe. And Teddy Kollek, the mayor of Jerusalem, knew that. So he and his good friend Uzi Narkis approached the government and say, we would like to build a prayer plaza. But the government says, no. So Teddy Kollek, the mayor, goes back to his office and starts to call his friends and says, hey y'all, we're having a party tonight by the Western Wall. It's going to start around 10:30. Bring your own bulldozers. And that's more or less how this happened. The people were all resettled in modern houses, and of course since then we've been digging ever since. The base of the bridge you're standing on was begun to be built 2,200 years ago. We are going to be walking past all these digs. Our path is going to take us along this yellow line. We're going to be walking right beside the Western Wall, and partway through our tour, we're going to pass a doorway that was built 2,000 years ago to access the Temple Mount. We are walking along, and we get to being under this building. We are going to be 90 meters from the rock, under the dome of the rock. In plain English, when we're down here under these buildings, we're going to pass a point where we're 270 feet from the top of Mount Moriah. And that's a spot where you're going to see lots of people praying. You yourself might want to think of a little prayer to say. And I want to give you one last thing to think about, and that is this blue line. That blue line is the bedrock. Bedrock is the geological term for the ground. You see how the ground rises to the north? The ground rises to the north. And here is a riddle for you. At this point, we are going to be standing under the line of the ground, but we're not going to be underground. Carry that with you. Please remember the blue line and the yellow line, and when we get there, my explanation will make a lot more sense. Jaffa Gate's that way, the Tempelmount is that way. My arms are parallel to the western wall. That's north, and that is south. Anybody still awake?
Very good.
That was a lot. That was basically all the technical stuff to help you figure out where we're going and a little bit of why. Is something not clear, please? If you've got questions on this stuff, this is the only place I have the toys. Is everybody clear? We're all on the same page? No questions? Listen, if you have questions and you're a bit, or you want to just ask me between stops, it's a great place. Just walk along with me and I'll answer questions you might have. Otherwise, please, if it's a basic question, ask in front of the group, because you're not the only one with the question. Yes, sir?
Just explain again above and below ground up here at the northern part.
The blue line is the line of the bedrock. That blue line and this line are the same. We are going to be standing under the line of the bedrock, but we're not going to be underground. I don't want to explain any more till we get there, because once we get there, you'll get it. That's the joke. Anybody else? Okay. As you hear, we are going to be walking into an active archaeological dig. Kids, stay close to your parents, please. You're sweet, you're precious. I want to make sure you come out of here safe. And everybody else, same thing. It's just that you're adults. Okay? Let's go.